Kia ora, good evening. There's been yet another dog attack in Invercargill this week in which a courier driver was seriously injured. The attack is the second in a fortnight and has sparked local authorities cracking down on unregistered dogs. Sharon Rees has more.
A post-haste courier driver is in hospital awaiting surgery following a serious attack by a dog in an Anglem Street home on Monday. Animal control officers and police visited the owners on Tuesday but found they had already put the mastiff cross down.
A courier delivery man went to this address to deliver a parcel, and the owners were at home, and while going through that process the dog jumped out the window and latched onto his arm.
Did the council know about this dog prior to this attack?
We had knowledge of it around for barking, and then when we met the property found it was unregistered, but didn't indicate that it was an aggressive dog.
Will the owners be prosecuted for this?
Our policy is that every dog attack, the policy is that we must consider prosecution. So we will be considering that in this case.
Figures released by ACC show claim costs for dog-related injuries in Southland for 2013 and 14 are sitting at just under $100,000. ACC said the accident description for dog-related injuries is equivalent to being kicked, butted or bitten. Since 2012, there have been several prosecutions for dog attacks in Southland, and the number of dogs impounded has increased by 20%. The attacks have sparked an increase in dog control staff, training and a review of current dog control policies for Invercargill.
I think it would be fair to say that with all the publicity and the political outcry about dog attacks throughout New Zealand, there is people are looking at the way we manage aggressive dogs.
Was this sparked by the recent amount of attacks, or is this something that's been underway for a while?
This has been underway for a while, but we are going to use these attacks to see if we can even strengthen up our policies even further.
By and large, it's a lack of owner responsibility around the behaviour of their dogs, the early socialisation and the environment that those dogs are kept in. So whether they're confined all day, how much exercise they get, their environmental enrichment, if you like, how much stimulation they have. Bored dogs far more likely to react than dogs that have got a happy, fulfilled life.
So what steps could be taken to reduce the rate of dog attacks?
There's a number of steps that can be taken, but the biggest one realistically is that dog owners need to take more responsibility for their dogs, making sure that firstly they're getting a dog that's appropriate for the environment and their lifestyle, and secondly when they get that dog, assuming that they've made the right choice, that then they do everything they can to make sure that the dog is socialised properly and, like I say, has an appropriate environment to live in, plenty of stimulation, activity, that sort of thing. There's also, on the flip side, a responsibility from the public to make sure if they're going to be approaching dogs that they're doing it in an appropriate way with the owner's permission, and that the dog's obviously always under the control of the owner.
Mr Youngson said the recent attacks all involved unregistered dogs, and the council will be cracking down to ensure all dogs in the city become registered. Sharon Rees, South Today News.
Fast food giant McDonald's has been granted resource consent to build a new restaurant from an independent commissioner. The proposed McDonald's drive-in restaurant and cafe in Invercargill's South City met opposition, including a 130 signature petition late last year. However, independent commissioner Bob Nixon has approved the resource consent application. Changes to signage, lighting and size were made to meet City Council opposition. Other conditions included closure of 26 of the 42 car parks between 10 o'clock and 7 a.m. to avoid disturbing residents, a litter management plan, landscaping and fencing as well as construction. If there are no appeals over the next fortnight, gaining building consent is the next step. When complete, it's estimated the restaurant will employ around 40 staff. A report released by job search website Seek has revealed a large number of Kiwis in New Zealand workforce are discontent in their current roles.
The Seek Change report revealed 76% of Kiwis are actively seeking a new role or monitoring the job market regularly, with 2/3 of people saying they would like to work in a different industry altogether. But while such a large portion of employees are unhappy with their jobs, the report reveals just 35% of Kiwis intend to find a new job this year. Seek says if history repeats, the figures are likely to be closer to the 26% of Kiwis who switched jobs last year.
But while some Kiwis may be unhappy in their working lives, it seems some have an improved sense of vacation satisfaction. Expedia's annual vacation deprivation report has shown 47% of Kiwis claim to feel vacation deprived. That's a decrease of 5% on the 2013 report. The report, which is based on the employed population of New Zealand, shows that on average Kiwis are only taking 17 out of the 20 leave days available to them. According to 93% of Kiwis, regular vacations are important for general good health and well-being, with 90% saying they feel less stressed when returning from vacation. Stay with us up after the break. The South's pessimism surrounding dairy, plus unravelling the cause behind cows killed by Swedes in the South. Welcome back. Lower dairy payout forecasts have caused a drop in economic confidence for Southland, the country's third largest dairying region. Westpac economists say consumers in Southland have fallen into pessimism for the first time since late 2012, when the region was facing the possible closure of the Tiwai Point aluminium smelter. In December, Fonterra cut its forecast payout for the season to $4.70 per kilogram of milk solids, in the third cut since last season's record payout of $8.40. That's since been downgraded to $4.35 by ANZ economists. However, the latest global dairy trade auction did see a 1% gain in prices overnight. Factors that may also be contributing to the loss of confidence include the weather and last year's Swede feed scare that saw hundreds of dairy cows die throughout the region. Dairy NZ is still in the process of conducting a detailed survey of farms across Southland to find the cause of the Swede poisoning. Sharon Rees spoke to Dairy NZ's Richard Kite to find out how the research is progressing.
We had around 300 to 400 farmers who thought they'd been affected. Some of them may have been a different issue, so it's whether it was an animal health issue, it was a different issue rather than Swedes, and some of them were. So that's why we've done a survey of farmers to actually see. We've done a preliminary survey which gave us those initial numbers, and now we've done a retrospective observational survey, which is we've taken 60 farmers who said they were affected and 60 farmers who said they weren't, and we're actually looking at the details from those farmers. Yeah.
So what goes into the survey process?
So the survey process is we basically we're asking farmers about their management of cows on Swedes, and that's from how quantities fed, how they fed them, and what supplements, whether it was silage or straw, that they had with the supplement. We're asking that. So that's from sort of managing the cows, and then we have managing the crops. So what fertiliser did they use? When did the crops go in? What were the soil conditions like? And basically, if they put any extra fertiliser on during the year, when did it go on? What type? Those sort of questions, so we can actually get a really good picture, both from farmers who fed Swedes and had no issues, so we can look at that against the farmers who fed Swedes and had issues. Yeah.
Has this ever been a problem before?
There have been issues in the late autumn in the past, and there's anecdotal evidence. Farmers talk about that it's happened in the past, but not to this degree and severity. It was quite severe, some of the cases we saw within whole herds. So it's I think it's the degree and the severity that's really made this different. Yeah, we've seen herds and farmers it's been considerable cost to them, with lost maybe 30 or 40 cows. On top of that, they've got production and a loss of a calf, and then they've got to replace the cows. So it's certainly, there's certainly been a big cost to some farmers. And we've had a range from people who've lost 5 or 10 to people who've lost 30 cows. Yeah.
How much money and effort has Dairy NZ put into this project?
Well, money's probably I can't tell you that. We're still part way through the project, and we picked this up let's say halfway through our financial year. So, but yeah, it's not been a cheap exercise. It's been a reasonably expensive exercise, but because it's so critical to Southland and South Otago, wintering on Swedes. That's why we've put the effort into it. There's a lot of manpower involved. A lot of people have been involved, both in head office Newstead scientists down to people coming down and conducting surveys. So we've had to have people who understand the farm system to go out and do the surveys so we can get the quality data. So it's certainly not, it's been a reasonably expensive and but thorough exercise. It's something you can't do by halves, I suppose, yeah.
When is the analysis expected to be completed?
So we're working through that. We've had some preliminary blood data that's just been released, and that's a sort of a snapshot in time. And then we're looking at the plant samples will be processed in the next month. So we're hoping by the end of next month, early into March, we'll have some data back from that. And then the survey sort of pulls it all together. We can look at it all. So hopefully we're looking probably around April, May to see some the feedback from all the information. Yeah.
And after all this time, is there any better idea of what has caused this?
I think the theory is still the same, that it's glycosinolates within the plants that have caused it. What's caused the spike in that is probably a question if that's what it is, but there's still an outside possibility. It could be something we haven't come across before. Yeah.
So how important is it to knock this on the head before next season?
If we can find out what caused it, that's great. Or what, but we sort of think it's maybe a combination of factors, and if we can take one of those out of the equation, so there isn't a problem. That's it's really important. We don't want to see this again. It's been really harrowing for some farmers, and it's like you say, it's been a cost to them. Yeah.
Sports journalist Joseph Romanos is along shortly after the weather next from the news team. Good night.